Welcome to my April 7th webinar on when inhumanity and unrighteousness prevail. Um, I felt the title as I wrote it was perhaps a little grandiose, but um, let's face it, we live in difficult times, and I thought it was important to address that. There are many viewpoints on how to live when we feel challenged. It's one of the reasons I told a story a minute ago about living in a war condition, um, which is a very challenging environment. But here in the United States, and I think in much of the world, um, what we see around us is inhumanity and unrighteousness. Inhumanity, a lack of concern for each other, a lack of caring about those who struggle to get by, who are suffering, who have illness or poverty, um, or are prejudiced against by the larger society, live as minorities and often have difficulties that way. And unrighteousness, the lack of law, the lack of fairness, the lack of uniform treatment by our government institutions, police, and such, which we've been seeing a great deal of recently in the United States. Um, we see these qualities in legislation to limit support for healthcare and nutrition. Um, we see these qualities in policies towards immigrants, minorities, and the poor. We see these qualities in the pardoning of convicted drug traffickers and sexual predators, and in the failure to prosecute persons accused of sexual exploitation, especially of minors. We see these qualities in economic policies that promote poverty and the concentration of wealth in the hands of extremely few rich individuals and families. And we see these qualities, inhumanity and unrighteousness, in the engagement in war, just the promulgation of war. So in this webinar, we're going to learn how to, at least one approach, my approach, the one I use, we're going to learn how to turn from inhumanity and unrighteousness to hope, to joy, and to love. We turn to hope because hope reflects optimism, and optimism overcomes pessimism and despair. It's an emotional state, but it's a style of functioning of our nervous system in each of us and in the collective community. Um, it's a style of functioning. When we have hope, then we have optimism about the future, that things will get better, that we can overcome the pessimism and the despair that keep us from engaging, being engaged, and being committed to activities to promote the well-being of humanity, to bring humanity and righteousness to our society. We turn to joy because joy represents well-being and overcomes melancholy. We turn to love because love binds us together, bringing out the oneness of people, of all people together. The oneness we call community and our human family. Hope, joy, and love spring from the unified field of natural law, the unified field of being on the subjective side. The being, our basic existence. It brings forth hope, joy, and love bring forth life. while pessimism and despair, they come from what we call duality, seeing differences, seeing separateness, seeing distinctions. They're good, this other group is not good, or we're good and this other group is not good. This is good, other things are but not good. That duality of existence. Things have different colors, things have different sounds, things have different tastes, flavors, and so on. They engage in different kinds of activity. They hold different values if you're people. Um, so hope, joy, and love are intrinsic to our existence, to being, and hence to life, our lives. While pessimism and despair take us from that. They are from that. They are from duality. From pessimism and despair come greed and the need for power over others. Greed and power are very intimately connected. We want, when we want stuff, we want more stuff, more power, more control over life, more things in our lives. So greed and the need for power spring from pessimism and despair, the feeling of lack inside, which we may not be conscious of, but we find ourselves seeking. We're seeking, we're seeking. Even when we're doom scrolling, as they call it now, being on the internet, being on our computers or our cell phones, looking at various social media, and, we're just doing that. What are we trying to do? We're trying to gratify something inside us. And usually we get some gratification that makes us feel good, but we pursue it because we want more gratification. And this kind of insatiable a lot of times. Many people I work with have this insatiable desire for feeling better, feeling more of their own bliss, their own joy, hope, love. Now we're talking about pessimism and despair. From pessimism and despair come the greed and the need for power, and from these spring inhumanity and unrighteousness. And so what I've laid out here is a hierarchy of feelings. That we can dig deeper, we can dig deeper. We start with inhumanity and unrighteousness. We get to greed and the need for power. We get to a core feeling of pessimism and despair and a lack of our sense of our own being, which is bliss, which is hope, which is joy and love. Understanding this dynamic lets us see that human suffering is born of ignorance of being. That's the natural conclusion when we see this progression, this hierarchy, this structure within us. We realize that it's all possible when we're not really aware of or in contact with our core essence, our being, which is synonymous with the unified field of natural law. It's the subjective aspect of it, of the unified field. Contacting being shifts our attention to hope, joy, and love. Awareness of being brings inner peace and the full expression of positivity in life, of being able to step forth and deal with everything that's going on, whatever that might be, whatever that might be. You read the news, local news, statewide news, national news, international news. I don't recommend you do it. I find it's hard to stay away from it, but I think part of that is that to um, I'm able to be with it and have enough being, have enough hope, joy, and love in me that I'm not overshadowed by the darkness of the world situation. it does happen that I get overshadowed. I'm sure it happens to everybody. You think about you think about the war going on right now. There's several of them. Ukraine, of course, is still going on, pretty much a stalemate. Um, the death toll is huge, both among the soldiers and among the civilian population. Uh, War is not healthy for children and other living things. An old anti war expression. War is not healthy for children and other living things. It's not healthy for anybody or anything. You know, we see the devastation in Gaza, we see the devastation in South Lebanon. Um, you can look to Sudan, which has had civil war for a long time. Ethiopia has had problems. Other countries have problems and have conflict. Um, and we've had conflict on this side of the pond, and this side of the oceans in the Americas. And that's been going on for a long time. You know, just recently, of course, the U.S. went and captured the leader of Venezuela, um, you know, which was kind of bizarre. Um, and, you know, the current leadership of the country has been trying to threaten or has been threatening takeover of Canada and Greenland and other places. Um, so, you know, it's there's a lot of strife in the world. There's a lot of enmity that's going on, a lot of suffering, human suffering, a lot of inhumanity and unrighteousness, not following the laws of nature, the laws of man. You know, we have a United Nations where we've set out rules that are supposed to govern all the membership, and yet we find membership violating those rules. Um, you know, the U.S. Because I'm familiar with it, I'll raise the point. The U.S. has long interfered in the governing and the elections of countries both in the Americas and elsewhere. I just heard that J.D. Vance, our vice president, um, just visited Hungary and basically supported the current administration in the upcoming election, which I think happens this Sunday. Um, and, you know, it's pretty much direct interference. You know, sometimes we threaten other countries, sometimes we do things, you know, that under, and I say we, but this is going on in other countries are doing this too. Um, you know, interfering with the governance of their neighbors and even people at a great distance. Um, so there's a great deal of strife in the world, and it's possible to feel this melancholy, this overwhelming sense that things are just so lousy, and a hopelessness that comes with that, a feeling of lack of power to change things. We change things by contacting being, our personal contact with being, of remembering being. We'll do a little exercise in the group clearing session that we're going to have in a few minutes of getting in touch with our being and bringing that to the inhumanity and unrighteousness within us, and then working from that to have hope, joy, and love. So that's what I really want to say tonight. Is that we can do this, but in order to do it, we have to find our being, find our center, find our core of existence, and from there, uh, look at the part of us that is feeling. It's nice to think of it as a part of us is feeling this rather than the whole of us. It works really well. I love that language. Something inside me, some part within me feels hopeless, feels the world is inhumane, feels there is unrighteousness. And acknowledge that and sit with that. That's really what we're going to do. in the group clearing session. We're going to sit with that. And then we can also sit with the part of us that has some hope, that has some love, some joy, that is finding the flow from being of our positivity, our ability to deal with stuff, and our ability to just witness it without being overshadowed by it. And that radiates to our environment, to our families, to our community, and so on. It radiates to the whole universe. It gets pretty dim if you're just one person. But if you're a whole group doing it together, it becomes a beacon of light for the world. It becomes a powerful influence to the world. And so we have to remember that, and we have to do it. We have to engage that. We have to engage that. So that's what I wanted to say. I'll give you an opportunity here to send comments, or if you have comments or questions. If you use the group chat, please, that works well for me. And I need, oh, I see Zoom has changed some things. That's very nice. Ah, you have to push some of the other buttons, so to speak. You do it with your cursor, but you pretend to push. But if anybody has any comments, anything, let me know. In the meantime, our next webinar is going to be on May 12th. That'll be our usual second Tuesday of the month, May 12th. And it'll be on the subject transforming shame. Transforming shame. So we look forward to your joining us then. Somewhere inside us, I think we all have some shame. I know of only a few truly shameless people, and they could use a little. They need a little temperance. But we'll talk about transforming shame. Um, that'll be on May 12th. So comment here. There's a great Maharshi quote about not having to fight the darkness, just light the light. Yes, that's a wonderful theme. Maharshi has developed that extensively. The idea that you don't remove darkness. You can't pick it up and shovel it and whatever and throw it out. You turn on light. You light a candle. You turn on a light bulb. You bring a light to remove darkness. And the light of life is that being within us. The contacting being brings that light, and it transforms everything it transforms our awareness. And when we transform our awareness, we solve the problem. We bring hope, joy, and love to overcome the pessimism and despair that arise from duality, from the lack of our awareness of being. So yes, bringing the light. He's used that analogy, I think, since the beginning of his teaching, so very long ago. Um, yes, it's just one of those wonderful, wonderful ways of illustrating how to make a difference in life. And having taught transcendental meditation to some number of people, I've seen it happen even in the situation of instruction in the technique, and people take their first meditation and they just see immediately that it's different. Life is different. The viewpoint is different. Their perspective is different. There is something that is beyond, transcendent to all of the differences, all of the duality, all of the strife, all of the conflict. I spend much of my time, much of my work, finding parts within people that are in conflict. Sometimes I hear it in their speech, what they say. I've had people represent 4 different parts within them in a single sentence. It's kind of cute when they do that. Hear all those different things, and my job is to help them sort those out and see the conflict and then move beyond that conflict. Okay, I'm not seeing anything else, so I'm going to bring this to a close now. Again, our next webinar, May 12th, on transforming shame, unless I get a different idea. Okay. If you want to stop the recording, it